Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Well, we're reaching the end of March. It's time to do the wrap up of my pens in use that I've been using this month. And I will be honest, this month it seems to have absolutely flown by. It only seems like a couple of days that I actually recorded the initial pen set, and now here we are at the end of the month. So join me now down on the mat. We'll take a final look at the pens I've used this month, give them a ranking, and then we'll take a look at the additional pens that have been brought in. Welcome down to the mat. So here we've got the list of pens we started the month with. There was a golden Sassafras with dominant industry forest, the Parker Frontier with Diamine Earl Grey, the Ranga Model 5 with Robert Oster Tranquility, the Pilot E95S with Diamine Writer's Blood, the Leonardo Magico with Diamine Blaze Orange, and the Waterman Carene also with Diamine Writer's Blood. Let's see how I've got on during this month and how I'm ranking this month's pens. My rankings, I'll be writing and using this pen. This is one of my latest additions. This is the Just Turnins Enceladus. And in there is Van Diemen's Deciduous Beach. So let's jump in. Which pen did I place at position number 6? Well, I'll be honest, position number 6 and number 5, very easy to pick. Position 6 went to the Golden Sassafras. I love the name of this Sassafras. I think it really just flows off the tongue. I think it's really nice. This Sassafras wood, it's an Australian native wood. It's a kit pen. You can see that by looking at it. Doesn't matter. It's still a nice pen to look at. I love the look. I love the actual feel of the wood. The nib on here, it's fairly small. I would say it's a number 5 size nib. It's a fine nib. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know I'm not overly keen on fine nibs. It's a cartridge converter. The converter it came with is one of these push-pull ones. So it's not one where you screw the top, it's where you slide this little slider up and down. Hopefully you can see that slider there. Goes together quite nicely. It's all metal, so it's not something I'd even think about eyedropper in. I will be honest, as soon as this ran out, I changed it. I just was not enjoying the pen. Nothing to do with the looks. The reason why I wasn't enjoying it was purely to do with this section here. It's just so thin, and I've got to be honest, I was finding it very uncomfortable to write with. It's that thin, and that's the reason why it's at position number 6, because I just did not enjoy the experience. Just fetching some test writing. So all my test writing is going to be in a Rhodia notepad, A5 size. This is the writing that I use for my daily videos. But if we're looking here, you know, the ink is beautiful. I really like the ink. I mean, I can see shading coming through. It's a very nice colour. I know it's green, one of my favourite colours. Looks nice, goes down nice. Had no issues with skipping or hard starts. It really was a nice pen to write with, apart from that thin section. If that section had been thicker, this pen may have been a contender for number 1. Honestly, that's how much I don't like that section. So for all that, this comes in at position number 6. So poor old Groot there, he's down at the bottom. So that was the Golden Sassafras. Position number 5. Again, this was a fairly easy one. Nothing wrong with the pen. I like the pen. Nothing wrong with the ink. I like the ink. The issue this time, it was more nib related. So position 5 goes to the Parker Frontier. I've had this pen since 2002. So it's a fairly old pen. And I will be honest, the issues with the nib, I think, were caused by me. There's the nib there. I think the nib's just damaged. And although I've tried smoothing it, I've tried repositioning it, I've done all sorts with the nib, I'm struggling to get it to write nicely. It's just very scratchy, feels like it's catching the paper, which is a shame because, as I say, It's the oldest pen I've got. It's a pen that I like. What I may do, let me just straighten that up. I may try swapping the nib with a different nib. I'll have to look at what I've got in my collection at the moment to see if there's anything that will easily go in there. The other issue I had with this, and again, to me, it sounds like a minor issue, but it was fairly big. If I'd leave the pen for 2 or 3 days, well, sometimes even only half a day, but usually I'd notice it after a couple of days, ink would have leaked from somewhere, I'm guessing from the nib, and all the section would be covered in ink. So when I went and started writing with it, where the pen touches my fingers, it would have been covered in ink. You can already see a little bit there, and that's after I've cleaned it really well. Again, maybe related to historical damage rather than current damage or current issues. I use a Parker cartridge. I just use a blunt nose syringe to fill that. Looks like I still need to clean it a bit more. There's still a little bit of that black ink. That's the problem with using these cartridges. Getting it right the way down to the bottom is a bit of a nuisance. Let me just fetch in the writing. So here we go. Here's my writing. I think Silver Surfer, this was a really good combo for Silver Surfer. You know, you've got the silver colour there of the pen. You've got this gorgeous grey colour there of the ink. Again, when it was writing, it's really nice. It's scratchy. You know, it still puts down a reasonable line. I quite like it. It's nice to write with. It's a nice, comfortable pen to write with. Just the nib, the way it was scratching and catching, made it feel uncomfortable. Now, rhodia paper is coated, so it wasn't as bad on the rhodia paper. But certainly some of my cheaper papers, like this one here, this is the one that I've used in where I've got my notes. It was not nice at all. Let's move that out of the way. So for all these reasons, this comes in at position number 5. So this was the Parker Frontier. Just like move the page up, see if we can get the remaining 4 pens all on the page at the same time. The remaining 4 pens. Well, I will be honest, if I could rank these all at place number 1, I would. I would quite like them all. But the rules I've set myself is I need to do a ranking from 6 down to 1. And I need to have each number represented, so I've got to still rank these. So as I'm talking about these, I'm being extremely picky on what I'm using to rank them. To be honest, as I say, any one of these could be number 1. And if I could, I'd have them all at number 1. So position number 4, that's going to go to the Leonardo Magico. This is a pen that's grown on me. When I first saw the colour, you know, when you see it on the website, it looked really nice. When I received it, I was a bit, have I made a mistake here? But I've got to be honest, I hadn't. This colour, after the first, like the shock of seeing it the first time, I really like. And I really like it with orange inks, which is what we've got in here. Diamine Blaze Orange. It's a piston filling pen. Holds quite a lot of ink. Got a really good ink window. Now, at the start of the month, if you can cast your minds back that far, you may have remembered this was virtually empty. And on the first day of using it, it did run out. And all I did was fill it with the same ink. One thing I have with this pen, because I use the smaller Diamine bottles, I think they're the 30ml bottles, can't really get the nib in to the bottle there to fill it. So what I have to do is unscrew the nib unit here. I'm not going to do it because there's still ink in there. I unscrew that and then I use a syringe and I just fill it as if it's an eyedropper. It's actually a good way of filling it because I get a good fill in there. And as you can see, you know, I've used a good chunk of that already. I enjoy writing with this pen. The pen is nice and comfortable. It's got, I think it's the newer style of the Leonardo sections. A very personal choice. I prefer the older style. I do find sometimes that this lip digs into my finger a little bit. Not enough to put me off, but just enough that I need to be aware of it. It's still a nice pen, you know, I don't need to post it. It's enjoyable. I can see my ink levels. I like the ink colour. Let's just fetch in some writing. So here we go. So I've got Leonardo and Magico. Gorgeous shading. Love it. I love the way I'm seeing that with the ink. I do occasionally, and it is very occasionally, get a bit of railroading. I think that's down to the way I write. I think I write with a fair amount of pressure. So I'm just forcing that myself. So one of the things I'm trying to do is, and you'll notice here, I'm trying to write with a little bit less pressure. So again, it's another nice thing about doing these pens in use videos and really thinking about how I'm writing as I'm doing my writing. It's letting me adjust the way I use the pen. It's very nice. I really like it. So nothing against the pen. I'm being extremely picky because I have to rate it. You know, as it could have easily been number 1. But for this month, this is position number 4. The ink in here, this Van Diemen's Deciduous Beech, looks ever so slightly darker than what I'm seeing with the Diamine Blaze Orange. I may try this ink in this pen as well at some time, but at the moment I'm enjoying that Blaze Orange in there. So position number 3. Let me just tidy that up a bit. There we go. I keep pushing out of line when I'm writing. Position number 3. This may surprise some people, but position number 3, I've decided to give that to the Waterman Carene. This is a beautiful pen. I absolutely love the looks of it. This marine amber, I know it doesn't really come over too much in the camera. Let me see. Can I hold it up a bit closer to the camera? Let me try and get it into the focus point. I'm that close to the camera. No, it's not really focusing. Let's move down a bit. Now, I was going to try and show you the colour a bit better because it doesn't really reflect it well when you're so far away on the paper. But this is a gorgeous colour. I really like it. It's very attractive to look at. It's a very different shape, you know, the way we've got this end here. The nib, it's an 18 karat gold nib. It's my only 18 karat gold nib. It's an inlaid nib. Cartridge converter. There we go. Got a couple of O-rings there, and I've only just noticed this. It seems like there may have been a little bit of leakage. I'll have to look into that further as I use this pen more. Not a lot of ink left in there at the moment. It's a nice pen to use. It's comfortable. You can see it fits well in my hand. It's another one, similar to the Parker though, where there must be a bit of ink leakage somewhere, because whenever I use it, I end up with ink stains there and on this finger. Only a little bit, but it's still there. It's something I'm aware of. Now, I cleaned this off yesterday, which is why I'm not seeing much of that ink staining today. This pen, as I've just shown you, unposted. I find this pen is more comfortable to use posted. The cap does not add a lot of extra weight onto it. If anything, to me, it makes it feel more balanced. The Diamine Writer's Blood that I started the month with, I had that in there because I was doing a comparison between this pen and the E95S. Now, that video should already have been released on my channel, if you want to go and check that one out. I found that ink to be too dark, actually too dark for both the pens. Both the pens seem to be fairly wet writers, and to my mind, Writer's Blood is also a fairly wet ink. And the combination just did not enjoy it. It just wasn't nice. I like my match with Daredevil. I think, to me, it reminds me of Daredevil's costume. If you've seen the Netflix series, that's the costume it fetches to mind from the season 1 of that show. Very nice. Let me just fetch in my writing. Now, I've done the writing with Merlot. And as you can see, Merlot looks like a better match for that. It's not as wet, or I don't think it's as wet. Not 100% certain on the match with the colour. I think it's fairly close. Do see some nice writing though. Again, got some nice shading. On Rhodia paper, this one, I find it squeaks a lot. And also I get a lot of skipping, a lot of hard starts. It just doesn't seem to like Rhodia paper. Again, this is what's contributing to me marking it down. On my other papers, it's been fine. I think it's because this is like a coated paper and it's got that little bit of slippiness to it. I think that affects the way that it writes. So I've had to take that into account. And for all these reasons, this is why I've decided that the Waterman Carene comes in at position number 3. So that was the Waterman Carene. Position number 2. Just move this down. We've only got 2 pens left. So again, this may shock some people. Position number 2, I'm giving to the Pilot E95S. One of my newer pens, same with the Carene. I got the 2 pens about the same time. It's another pen with a gold nib. This time it's only 14 carat. It's another inlaid nib. The nib's very similar, but different. If I just fetch them both in, so you can see them side by side there. I like this pen in the hand. It feels really nice. It's very light. A lot lighter than the Carene. In fact, I would say this is the lightest pen I've used all month. When you see it with the cap on, it looks fairly small. It's, I would say, just about pocket pen length. Maybe a little bit longer than a pocket pen. Unposted, not usable. I mean, if I'm doing a couple of words, maybe even a sentence, I might use it like this. But for anything more than that, it has to be posted. When it's posted, it's actually a really nice length. It's comfortable to write with it, as I said. So why is this at position number 2? Because everything I'm saying is positive. Let me fetch in the writing. So again, we started off with writer's blood. And I had the same issue. It was just too wet. It was too dark. There was no character. It was just so flat looking. When I changed it, I put in Diamine Claret. I thought, it's Iron Man. That's something that I can imagine Tony Stark drinking. So I thought, yeah, it's a good match. And actually, I love the colour match for this. I think I may have found my perfect ink for this pen. I don't know. I have to experiment a bit more. But I really like it. The line this puts down, again, very nice. I find that, although it's a medium, I'll just fetch this down, you can see there, medium. It's, to my mind, it's wider than a medium line. It's going more towards a broad type line. I love that. I like wide writing pens anyway. The ink colour, really nice. Not a lot of shading coming through. And I get the same problem on Rhodia paper as I do with the Carene. Hard starts, skips, just not a nice way of writing. Similar to the Carene, all the other papers, it's a gorgeous writer. But I'm having to mark on my experience during this month. So for that reason, I thought this one comes in at position number 2. So that's the Pilot E95S. So all that means position number 1 goes to the Ranga Model 5. This has got a broad Ranga nib on it, and in there I've got Robert Oster Tranquility. The character I'm saying this represents is the Hulk. You know, it's a hulking pen. It's a big pen. I mean, I'm going to show you the E95 next to it, and then let's fetch in the Leonardo. You can see how big a pen it is from that. It's a gorgeous pen to write with. For me, the size is what helps it. If I take the cap off, we've got an extremely wide section. It is so comfortable to use. We've got a very big lip at the bottom, so my fingers just rest up against it. They don't rest on it, they rest against it. It fits nicely in the hand. It's a pleasure to hold. It's a pleasure to write with. You know, if you were a bit sadistic, yes, you could post it. Just too long. Makes it back heavy, and although it will post, it's very, very slack. But unposted, wow, this is just so nice. If I take off the section, so it does come with a cartridge converter. It's nearly empty. I'm going to be cleaning this out later on today. 3 times I've filled this during the month. That's how much I've enjoyed using this. Every time a pen has run out, this is the one I've reached for. Every time I needed a pen just to do something quick when I was at my desk, this is the one I reached for. One thing to be aware of with Ranga pens, and certainly this one is still doing it. I've had this pen about 2 years now. It still has that distinctive Ranga smell. It's like a vegetable-y type, maybe not quite rotten veg. To me, if I had to try and say what does it smell like, it's boiling cabbage. It's not an unpleasant smell, but it's certainly not a pleasant smell. And it is very in your face, or certainly very in my face with this one. Now, my sense of smell isn't the best, and for me to be able to smell this, it shows you the amount that it's coming off with. But that doesn't matter. The writing experience with this pen is so nice. Here we go with that rhodia paper. You know, you can see there, beautiful colour. I really love Robert Oster Tranquility. I do have a couple of other inks in this same colour family, you know, different, slightly different shades. Tranquility is one of my favourite inks, full stop. You know, if we look at the line, had no issues here at all with any hard starts, with skipping, not even on this rhodia paper. It wrote first time, every time, it wrote perfectly. So nice to use. And you will even get little bits of shading coming through. Lots of character in the writing from this. And that's really what led me to think, well, if I've got to give one of these four position number 1, it can only be the Ranga number 5. And that gets position number 1. Just going to turn the page over, then we'll take a look at the pen that I brought in during the month. So here we go. This is the pen that came in. Once I'd finished with that golden sassafras, as I said, I decided not to refill it. So I needed to fetch in another pen. I like to always have 6 pens in my rotation at any one time. So I brought in the Jinhao 35. This has got a fine nib. It's an all black pen. Part of the reason why I thought, well, Black Panther, brilliant one to represent with this pen. Cartridge converter. Now you can see the ink here. Hopefully you can see this in here. The ink has got a lot of gold shimmer. Pure Pen's Welsh gold, black ink with a really nice gold shimmer. My problem is, in this pen, I've not really seen the shimmer in my writing. I think the nib's just too fine. I have had a couple of issues with it, so if I leave it for a few days, the feed it dries out. I'm guessing it's getting blocked because of the shimmer, so I have to spend a few minutes scribbling away, shake it a couple of times. Eventually it does start flowing again. When it's flowing, flows nicely. As I say, I don't see that gold shimmer. For fetching my writing, here we go. This is the Jinhao 35. Let me see if there's any coming through here. Sometimes I find I can see shimmer and sheen even better when I'm going through the camera as to when I'm looking at it with my eyes. Certainly on my preview, I'm not seeing too much there. It just seems mainly black to me. And it's a shame because when I thought about this, I thought, you know, with the gold shimmer coming through, that'd look really nice when we're representing Black Panther. Nice line. It's a fine pen. It's a fine line. Fine's not my favourite. You know, I only paid $3 for the pen. I'm not going to complain, am I? It's nice. It's enjoyable. If it would have been included in the rankings, chances are this is where number 4 position would be because of the issue with not seeing that shimmer. But it was an enjoyable pen to use. So let's swap over and we'll fetch in all the pens for one final look. So here we have it, the pens from March of 2023. The golden sassafras at number 6. Number 5, the Parker Frontier. Number 4, the Leonardo Momento Magico. Number 3, Waterman Carene. Number 2, Pilot E95S. Position number 1, the Ranga Model 5. So big it won't even fit in the camera. And it doesn't actually fit in the case. I've just got it balanced on the top there. And then my additional pen for the month, the Jinhao 35. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on these pens? Have you got any of them? How would you grade them? How would you rank them? How about the pens you've been using this month? How would you rank those? Please drop your comments down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.